Greetings, family. I wanted to take a moment and talk about a deck that I have had the opportunity to skate. It's a deck that's had a lot of hype around it. It's a skater that's had a lot of hype around himself. Talking about the Andy Anderson deck. Oh yeah, that Andy Anderson deck. People are love it. They're fucking mad at it. All kinds of stuff. I actually have the deck, and unlike most other folks, I've skated it rather than put it on my wall. So, with all the controversy behind everything with this guy, his deck, his style of skating, let's start with the deck, though. So here's the Andy Anderson light deck. It's the big hoopla around this deck. Hard to get. Comes in two sizes, an 845 and a 913, I believe. 913. This here is the 845. I typically skate an 8.5 myself, so this is was right up my alley. So I thought I will say that the skate's a little tight for me. I think that has to do with the 14.5-inch wheelbase. Some folks like the smaller wheelbases. I think for this deck's particular design, it's got a little bit of a unique cut here. A little bit of a classic cut, some shape to it. That's why it caught my eye. I knew nothing about Andy Anderson. I saw the deck, was looking for a deck with a little bit of shape. Typically, I'm looking at Hisoyas or Caballeros, but I saw this deck and it looked really cool. Unfortunately, I couldn't get a hold of it because the deck was sold out. So, Matt Cockrum, he runs a small wood skateboard deck building business. He does a lot of trading with the collectors out there. We're both part of all the big trading groups. So he happened to know where one of these was located. That person had actually offered this up to him on a trade just before he saw me inquiring about the board and some of the groups. And he let me know he could get it to me for cost. So I picked it up, skated it. So skate-wise, thing is like a tank. Of course, it's flight deck. It's not going to break. I am surprised at the tail here. Check this tail out. That tail, I've skated this for 2 months, and this tail has completely worn down on me. It's actually gotten soft up here towards the middle. Right in there, it's kind of, you can even hear it. Real quick, I don't run down tails that fast on wood decks, typically. That being said, the rest of the deck is awesome. Very light, very strong. I would suggest skating this deck on regular trucks. I think they're going with the specialized light trucks and the flight decks just a little bit too much. Yeah, I really do like the deck. Was about to retire the deck because of the tail. It's too soft and it's actually sharp. I would have to cut this tail off at this point for me to get back to a normal place with it. But at that rate, now we're talking about a 6 1/4 at that, maybe even 6. So retiring the deck, moving on with life. But then, lo and behold, I had the opportunity to buy 3 of the larger model flight decks. So here we have the 9.13, I believe. Hopefully it's not 9.14, and I'm going to have to put up little words there to tell you I'm fucking stupid. Probably. Anyways, so the 913. I would take a wild guess and say that if you asked Andy Anderson, he'd probably say that this shape was actually designed for the 913. The reason I believe that is because after skating this in 913, it's a world of difference from this 845. Now, I understand that these cuts, these unusual shapes, we've got edges here. These are all for your tail bopping, hippie hopping, and all that. Same thing with the nose. So, as you can see, quite a difference in the shape after you skate it. So, for the popsicle lovers, you popsicle lovers out there, I love me some popsicles too. If you're intimidated by this shape of the deck, just skate it and you will eventually end up with a popsicle, apparently. Look at that. Look at that compared. That's something, right? That's a world of difference. Those are the tails. I do believe that this board's not going to wear down as quick for me in this size. Like I said, I think the design was probably meant for this size. I love this deck now. I've only skated it 3 times. It's really, really, really cool. There's a level of stability on it that between the wheelbase, the shape, it really, really functions well. And I'm not using it. I just skate the bowls. I don't skate street. I do a couple manuals. I scrape my tail here and there. Like I said, I'm a little disappointed in that tail wearing down because I don't skate young feller style. I'm old and fat, and I can't do that shit without breaking an ankle or tearing up a knee, so I skate the bowls. And that's just the way I skate. I don't know how I tore that tail down so fast. It just amazes me. But I do believe that we're not going to see the same problem in this larger deck just because there's more tail there. It's a much larger tail on this, so I'm not going to be so dependent on one spot of the tail that I was hitting. I think that the larger model deck is definitely a better deck to skate. The larger model of the deck is much harder to come by. This is why I bought 3 of them. I decided if I liked it, and I'll never have the opportunity to get one again at cost because these are at retail price, I better buy 2. There's a fellow at the skate park also that saw me with the 845. He really liked it and would like one. So I grabbed an extra one just in case that guy's still around and I run into him. I don't even know the dude's name. I've seen him around the parks. He's a cool guy. So if I see him, I'm going to give him the 3rd one at cost. Hold on to the 2nd one. If I don't like this, when it wears down, I'll just sell the 2nd one at cost also. It's a cool deck. At least in the 913. If you're an 8.5 skater, I would still suggest going with the 913 if you can get your hands on it over the 845. Just me. I think that it makes more sense at that size. I'm willing to bet that the 845 was strictly developed for marketing reason and sales, increase of sales. Don't blame them at all. 8.5 is a sweet spot for most skaters right now. 8.5 is a good transitional board from going from bowl to street to park. 8.5's got you covered all around, no matter what your size, shape, build. It's really good sweet spot for a lot of people. So I understand why they would want to put out the 845. It makes sense. It's going to sell a lot of decks. The crazy thing is the 913 is the one that's never available and the one that's expensive. I don't know if that's because they just decided not to produce as many, or that people realize that this one's more functional skating. When you skate it, it works better at the larger size, or that it's just more of a collectible because it kind of resembles more of an old school deck in the larger size than the small setting. I don't know. I do know that 845 is available everywhere. You can get it right now for $100. Just Google it, you'll find it. The 913, that's not the case. I'm assuming it's because collectors probably desire the 913. It looks better on the wall next to the old school boards, I'm sure. So, yeah, that's my take on the Andy Anderson deck. I wanted to talk about Andy Anderson, the skater, for a moment, because I see a lot of hatred for this young man. Last time I checked, skateboarding was about individuality. I think that there's a lot of jealous, weird, older dudes that shouldn't even give a fuck about what that kid's doing. But for some reason, there's some type of hatred for the dude. I don't know if it's because of the way he skates or because he wears a fucking helmet. I will say this, if you're over 30, 35 years old, and you have some type of stink bug position about this kid, it's kind of fucking weird. It's just kind of fucking weird. Just saying, fellas. Just saying. Dude is ripping, doing his own thing. I almost wonder if, you see some of those little hip hops and little tail bops, and maybe some people are jealous that they didn't get out there and steal some old Mullen shit, put it on the internet, and get famous and rich. Maybe that's the problem. He's a fucking teenager, having a good time. I like him. Don't know the dude. I've never really been one to give a shit about somebody's skate style. It's more about the shit they're talking. I just think it's a little uncalled for, all the hate. Give the kid a break. Let him progress. The kid's not even... This kid's growing still. So, I mean, we have no idea what potential's about to be unlocked with this person. Show the kid some love and encourage him, because he's a Pandora's box, and he's just going to continue to progress. He inspires hundreds and hundreds of other kids to think that they can't do it because they're kind of funky. He brings a level of individuality that I can actually appreciate, because he's not doing things exactly like everyone else does them. Blah. I don't know what else to say about the fucking kid. He's rad. He's rad in my book. If someone talks to him, ask him, was that 915 or the 913 really designed with that shape? Now, over the 845, I have a feeling that shape and the 913 was the original concept. It works. I'll be skating this deck more often. I'll be giving you some updates on it. I want to find out if that tail wears down. That's my first flight deck. I'd like to keep skating flight decks, but if the tails are wearing down on all of them that quickly, I'm going back to wood. If you guys have any suggestions on cool decks in that 9 type shape, 995s, cool, like all-around decks. This is kind of an all-around deck. It's not just a pull board. It's not just a street board. It's an all-around little deck. You can even get your freestyle on with all these cool little cuts. So yeah, if you understand the reason why people don't like the kid, please explain that to me in a coherent, consumable fashion. Watch out for the algorithms when you comment on this video. Facebook and fucking Instagram have gone crazy, and they are deleting people for jokes that are harmless. I tell you. You guys have a good one. I love you. Goodbye.